Welcome back. You're watching The Candidate. We're in conversation with Congress MP Milind Deora. Milind, let me ask you this, since you touched upon the promises the BJP is making, especially as far as the economy is concerned. There seems to now be a realization, even within the Congress party, that the emphasis on this business of economics of entitlement, on scheme-based guarantees that the Congress has promised, has not necessarily worked. If I can quote the finance minister, not verbatim, but in conversations that we've had, there seems to be a realization that people want jobs, people want better opportunities, people want access to a better livelihood. They don't necessarily want another scheme, and the BJP is clearly highlighting what some would say is a shortcoming of the Congress's economic agenda. I know that the Congress is releasing its manifesto on the 26th. Are we likely to see a shift away from this business of guarantee or rights-based schemes to more job creation, better livelihood, access to finance, and so on and so forth, unleashing the entrepreneurial zeal of India, which in a sense got lost, especially in the last 5 years as far as the Congress's promises were concerned?
Yeah, look, if you ask me, frankly, for my personal opinion, my personal opinion is that freebies don't work and freebies are unsustainable. And I think whether it's my government or it's someone else's government, or if you saw at the most extreme stage, the most irresponsible extreme, which is the AAP government in Delhi, freebies are dangerous, and freebies ultimately fool the taxpayer and fool the public into believing that they're getting a subsidy when actually you're putting money in one pocket and taking money from the other, taking money out of the other pocket. That's my personal view.
So you acknowledge that the Congress
I think, to be fair to the government,
you acknowledge that the Congress's economic agenda in that sense of promising freebies has been the wrong choice.
No, I think there's a fundamental difference in the way we've gone about dealing with subsidies and these pro-poor schemes and welfare schemes. Look, let's compare what AAP did recently in Delhi. They said, if you are a protester who protested against paying your power bills, or you joined us in cutting the electricity lines, you will be rewarded with a rebate. We did a food security bill from a fundamental philosophical, ideological view that says India is a rich country, people shouldn't be starving, and people should have a right to get access to food. I think those are fundamental differences in, if you call them freebies or subsidies. But at the same time, to be fair to our government, we also, we have the NSDC, which is the National Skills Development Council, which, don't forget, Shireen, is allowing thousands and thousands of youth in our country. We have Mr. Ramodarai, who is the head of TCS, who's a skills advisor to the Prime Minister, which is enabling thousands of youth across the country, and I know that from my own constituency, who are not just getting jobs, but are getting trained to get jobs. They're getting certified with certain skills.
Yes,
there was earlier no certification if you're a plumber, if you want to be an electrician, if you want to be a cameraman. Today there are skills and certificates being given for people, which is leading to immediate employability.
I don't want to get into a debate on the data, and the data clearly shows that even as far as the time when we were growing at 8.5%, we were actually not creating jobs. So in a sense, the last decade has been a decade of jobless growth, and that could have been the charge leveled against the BJP as well when it was in power. But as I said, I don't want to get down to that debate. I'm asking you whether you believe that there should be, or there is likely to be, when the Congress unveils its manifesto, a shift in the Congress's economic approach. At this point in time, and I come to you from a space where people feel that the Congress has abdicated the Aam Aadmi space, which has now been taken up by the Aam Aadmi Party. It's taken away it's no longer in the pro-development space, which is a space that has been captured by the BJP, and the Congress is stuck somewhere in the middle. It doesn't know which way to go.
Now, that's completely untrue. We are very clear in our economic objective of economic redistribution of equitable growth. Please remember, Shireen, that in 2004, when we came to power, the paradigm in the country with regards to economics and economic growth was a very exclusive one. We tried to make it more exclusive, and in 10 years we have done a lot. We have reduced poverty, we have alleviated poverty by more than any government has ever done in the past. Of course, there's a long way to go and there's much more to be done. But to say that, to try and hint or allege that we are an irresponsible party, both fiscally, both in terms of subsidies, I think that's very untrue. Today, look at what's happening with AADHAAR and the direct benefits transfer. Maybe the Supreme Court has said that AADHAAR is not mandatory for other services. But please tell me if there is a better idea that any other political party has had to redirect and make subsidies more efficient. Ultimately, that's what we should be debating. It's very easy
I'm glad, since you raised the issue of subsidy and you raised specifically the issue of Aadhaar, let me ask you this, because this once again comes back to the issue of the Congress party not having backed ideas, not having taken ownership of the ideas that it put forward. Aadhaar being one example. 2010, you moved the bill to give constitutional validity to the Aadhaar program. It didn't go anywhere. The Supreme Court is questioning the very validity of the entire Aadhaar program. This was one of your flagship programs. Shouldn't the Congress party have prioritized this? This was your mechanism to address the issue of subsidies, and look where it is today. That is the point that I'm making, that forget policy paralysis, the UPA hasn't done enough to take ownership of its own flagship programs, the Aadhaar being one case in point.
No, I don't believe that's true again. I think, look, we should have passed the Aadhaar bill long back. I don't deny that. Ultimately, you need political will and consensus in parliament, Shireen. It's not just about one political party. If people want to play politics and they don't want to restructure the way systems work in our country and to improve those systems, you're going to have a problem. Today, look at the Pension Fund Regulatory Authority bill. PFRDA bill had been languishing also for some time. Let me take you to an example in my own ministry. We are in the Ministry of Telecommunications and IT, and through the Department of Electronics and IT, running a very, very ambitious e-governance program. If you ask anyone today who has applied for a passport to get their passport renewed through the Passport Seva Kendra, people who are filing their income tax returns online, that's part of the Government of India and my ministry's e-governance initiative. It's not a perfect solution again, but it's a solution that's improving governance. It's a solution that's reducing corruption. It's a solution that's reducing the human interface between the citizen and government, making government smaller, smarter, more efficient. I don't know why we as a country aren't debating these issues. All we're debating, for example, even in the ambit of corruption, is either you're for a Lokpal bill or you're against a Lokpal bill. Most people won't even know what the Lokpal bill is about. So I think we as a country have, unfortunately, the narrative in our country, the political discourse in our country has been reduced to sound bites, rhetoric, and on social media to 140 character allegations even. And as a result, it's very easy for a party, whether it's an upstart party, whether it's a main opposition party, to just throw muck at those in government and just say everything's wrong and nothing's good. But when you try and improve things and you try and restructure things, people criticize that, and people aren't willing to change that. If you remember when I initiated a bill in 2005 on RTI, please remember this. I spoke to empty benches. There was not a single member from the entire NDA present in the Lok Sabha when the RTI bill was being debated in May 2005. When such a historic bill, which has completely restructured government, which is allowing government to be completely transparent, there was not a single person present from the opposition in parliament. Isn't that deplorable? Isn't that disgusting?
No,
so that means
you make an
people want to play
point.
politics, people want to have rhetoric and choose rhetoric over actual substance. And that's unfortunately what's happening in our country. So let's try and change the debate to something more substantive, to really solution-oriented, not just highlighting the problems.
We hope that that is exactly what will happen. But Milind, we're completely out of time. Let me ask you my final question. The Congress manifesto will be unveiled tomorrow. Give us a sense of what we can expect, or at least what you would like to see as far as the Congress's economic agenda is concerned. Your constituency is going to be watching out very, very closely. How do you intend to address, or how the Congress intends to address the issues of fiscal prudence, deficits, stabilizing the rupee, bringing growth back on track to 8% plus levels, attracting foreign institutional investors, attracting domestic capital back? What would we expect in the Congress manifesto? At least what would you like to see if you don't know what's in it?
Well, I think one very critical point that I would be hopeful for in the Congress manifesto, and frankly in the manifesto of every mainstream party that can possibly govern India, is how do you balance the conflict between environment and development? I think that is very critical for us to debate, discuss, put out in our manifestos and provide clarity to investors. That's something which no party has really articulated very well, and that's something that keeps coming up and sort of stalling or slowing down large infrastructure projects in our country. I think the rest of the agenda is very clear, which is that I fundamentally believe that ultimately what determines economic growth in our country is political stability. And what really determines political stability is social acceptability in our country. And that is a fundamental difference between a Congress-led government and a Narendra Modi-led BJP government. The reason I believe, and I think that's something that should come out in our manifesto very clearly, that a Narendra Modi-led BJP government cannot provide the kind of political stability needed for economic growth in our country, is because someone like Narendra Modi lacks social acceptability in our country. And that there's a fundamental difference between a Modi-led NDA and a Vajpayee-led NDA.
Milind Deora, that is the litmus test for Narendra Modi, but time will tell and the voters will decide which way this is going to go. But appreciate you joining us here on The Candidate. We wish you very best of luck as you attempt a third shot at winning South Mumbai. Thanks very much for joining us on CNBC TV 18.